Welcome, my friends. My name is Keith Johnson, founder of Biblical Foundations Academy International. Our mission is to inspire people around the world to build a biblical foundation for their faith. Actually, I am presently on the other side of the globe from my normal location in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm in what I call the Far East Initiative. Been doing things over in this part of the world for the last 3 years or so. I have to apologize right off the top. I'm not able to bring all the bells and whistles of great production. I'm on a borrowed time in a difficult place with a whole bunch of people not far from me right now. You might hear dogs barking, cars beeping, construction. I'm going to do my best to give you a quality presentation on what I'm calling the top 10 responses to alternative facts regarding the name Yehovah or Yahweh. And I have to tell you something. I got to give you some background before we get started. I'm going to do something I've never done before. I'm actually going to bring a presentation from some folks unedited, other than I'm going to stop their presentation and then respond. So I'm not going to change anything. I'm not going to add anything. I've never really done this before, and so I've got some challenges, as I mentioned over here. You might hear any number of things. Like I said, I don't have the best quality regarding sound and lighting, but I do have quality as it pertains to this presentation. So I really want to give you a little more background to why I'm doing this. About a year and a half ago, I was presented a video, and after watching about a minute or two of the video, I just realized I couldn't continue, just because it didn't seem that the video, though it was addressing some issues that I've been a part of, it just didn't feel to me. It felt kind of like a drive-by teaching. I wasn't really sure the depth of information that the people that were presenting actually had. Well, here a year and a half later, I was presented with the video again. And this time I did watch the entire thing. And in light of some things that are taking place really right now, here in the last couple of weeks, I just don't think I just don't think I cannot respond. I don't think, in other words, I have to respond. Now, I'm doing this unscripted, folks. I'm just going to give it to you from my heart. But I've got 10 responses to a presentation that was presented. And lots of people have seen this presentation. And so that's part of it for me, is that I just feel like there needs to be a legitimate response. You know, so many times people say that they want to have discussion and they want to have dialogue. What really it ends up turning into a debate. And then unfortunately, sometimes those debates debase people. So I'm not going to do that. But I really think it's important for me to give it to you the way that it was presented to me. So I'm not going to, as I mentioned, I'm not going to change anything regarding what they presented, but I am going to insert within their presentation my top 10 responses to what I call alternative facts. The issue for me is that these presentations are created and all sorts of things are said, and oftentimes there's not accountability. So because I was involved in the basis for why they're presenting, though they didn't say my name, of course, but I've been involved in some of the research as it pertains to this important topic, they sort of, like I said, did a drive-by. So I'm going to give them a chance to first respond. So the video will play, I'll stop it, I'll make my response. So let's get started with the first section.
Well, this is Pastor Randy from the land of Israel. We are in the city of Jerusalem. Beautiful, beautiful place at a park near the old city, Jerusalem. I have a very special guest with me today, Elder Don Esposito. And Don, today I want to talk about something very specific, and that is the name Yehovah. It's becoming more and more popular within the U.S. Many people believe that this is the name of our Father in heaven, and you say, no, it's not.
Yes.
And you have evidence to support this. So I know it's from the Aleppo Codex, and you have some information about the Aleppo Codex specifically, as it pertains to the name of Yahweh, YHWH, Yod-Heh-Waw-Heh. So help us understand why you believe that the pronunciation Yehovah is not correct.
Okay. First of all, it's well documented, and we'll give the sources when we end here. It's well documented that the rabbis in the 6th to 10th century, when they were starting to put the vowel pointing, because before that there's no vowel pointing in any of the texts, that because they didn't want someone to inadvertently say the name Yahweh, that they took the vowels from Adonai and put those vowels into the Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh. So that's a fact.
And that's where we get Jehovah.
Exactly. Jehovah or Yehovah, it's the same thing. It's the same thing that's coming. So that's where that comes from.
Response number one, I call this the jots and the tittles. And really, this is the basis for some confusion with people. It just seems that there's not an understanding of what the scribes are actually doing when as it pertains to placing vowels inside of words. Now, I want to say something. There's a sort of popular response that says that the Masoretes in the 6th century created the vowels. No, they didn't create the vowels. They created vowel markers, which they placed into the consonantal text where we would be able to read it and others would be able to read it. This is really important point. It isn't that they invented these vowels. They simply invented a system by which they could use that system to help people like you and like me and people throughout history who no longer by memory knew how a certain word was pronounced. For example, if you open up a Torah scroll, there are no vowel markers there, but there are vowels. How are there vowels? You cannot, pronounce the first word in the Bible, Bereshit, without and and e. Those are vowel sounds placed within the consonant. So whether it's the young person that's preparing for a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah, they actually read a Torah scroll without vowel markers. However, they are trained to understand what the pronunciation is of those words. So I'm just going to give you what I believe to be an important quick little response on the jots and the tittles. There's a famous rabbi, teacher back in the 1st century who said that not one jot or one tittle in English, but in Hebrew and in Greek, what he's really saying is there's not one consonant or one vowel. Now, the markers were not there in the 1st century, but the pronunciation of words, which included consonants and vowels, that did exist. And it existed from the time of the beginning of the Torah until this very day and will continue forever. You cannot speak words without vowels. So just to be clear about that. Now, here's what the response, here's the teaching. The teaching is the vowels placed within the word Yud, He, Vav, He are the vowels of Adonai. Now, don't get overwhelmed. I want to give you some information that you can check for yourself at the end of this. In fact, I want to say something. I have a real crazy challenge. I'm actually going to be challenging my friends all over the world who have different opinions that want to discuss and have dialogue, even debate without debasing each other. I'm going to be inviting them to have a conversation with some others. And I've already made the invitation to some people who have different views of this. And when we get to the end, hopefully you'll also take that invitation. But the vowels placed within the word Adonai. Here are the consonants, Aleph, Dalet, Nun, and Yud. The first vowel marker is a Hataf Patach, that is the sound A. The second vowel is a Cholim, and the third vowel is a Kamatz. Now, these are the vowels placed within the word Adonai. The Masoretes did not create that pronunciation. They simply created vowel markers so that we could say Adonai instead of la, a, u, or something else. This is the way the word was pronounced back at the time that it was given by tradition. And what they did in the 6th century on is they created these vowel markers. Now, the vowels placed within the 4 consonants, what are the 4 consonants? Yud, He, Vav, He, these 4 consonants, which many of you have seen and you're aware of and you understand. Some of you maybe aren't as clear about what those 4 consonants are, but we're going to be giving some information that will really, really help you. These are the 4 consonants, Yud, He, Vav, He. These are the 2 vowels, the Shiva and the Kamatz, which we find in Hebrew manuscripts thousands and thousands of times where the scribe said, we're going to place these 2 vowels within these 4 consonants so that it cannot be pronounced. If I come across this word, 4 letters with 2 vowels, it's an impossibility. It's not something that you can pronounce according to the Hebrew grammar. Now, here's where it gets exciting. This is where the rub is. This is where the issue comes that the people are, debating. If I open up a Hebrew manuscript and I see 4 consonants, Yud, He, Vav, He, and 3 vowels, all of a sudden, this word comes alive. All of a sudden, this word begs from me to be able to pronounce it. And but then this is where the issue comes in. If I see this, I get excited. Now, what the people who are opponents to this presentation, to this information might be, is they would say, no, actually, if you see the 4 letters with 3 vowels, that's actually the vowels. Those are actually the vowels of Adonai. Now, I come from a tradition. I was at a seminary where this is the normal. This is what you say. This is it. However, I had a really wonderful opportunity to actually look and see what the scribes did, and I'm going to show you what the scribes did. Now, the vowels placed within the words Adonai and Yehovah. Here are the vowels right next to each other. A, O, A, E, O, A. This is not something that I'm like pulling out of the air. This is not my opinion. This is by both tradition and witness. If I look into the manuscripts, I see Adonai and I see E-O-A. A-O-A, E-O-A. Adonai, Yehovah. I'm going to say it over and over again so you understand. I'm telling you about the jots and the tittles. Now, if I were to just take away that aleph and take away that yud, you would see that there's a difference between the vowels of Adonai and the vowels of Yehovah. Do you see it? I mean, that is not the same vowel. It's just not. No matter how you slice it, those vowels are not the same. Now, here's what's really exciting. There are no occurrences in the Aleppo Codex, we're going to get to that in just a second, where the scribes place the full vowels of Adonai into the name. In other words, in the most important Hebrew manuscript that we have, we do not find this form, Yahovah. Some people say it that way, but that is not what we find in the actual manuscripts of the Aleppo Codex and the Leningrad, which I'm going to talk about in a second. Now, there's some really exciting things about new discoveries. I cannot wait until this invitation at the end, because these new discoveries are going to give us an ability to go even further on the confidence and understanding the information regarding the name. There is confusion, however, between how the name is read, Adonai, versus how the name is written as Yehovah. Now, there is no debate. When the scribes are writing Yud, He, Vav, He, and placing even the 2 vowels, E and A, which we find mostly, it is the instruction from them that when the reader comes across Yud, He, Vav, He with 2 vowels, they are to say Adonai. In fact, to this very day, if you are reading a Torah scroll, or a young person at a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah is reading a Torah scroll and they come across those 4 letters, they will say Adonai. However, that's how they pronounce it. That's how they say it. That is not how it is written. And I got to say something. I'm going to beat this drum. Hopefully you're a person, one of those people who saw the video of these 2 men making this presentation, and you'll take what I call a second look, kind of like Moses, slow down and take a second look at the burning bush. The bush is burning right now. There's some information that's coming that to me, now I'm not going to make it through this presentation without just who knows? I'm going to try not to shout, but I am pretty excited about it. Let's now go back to the alternative facts video. Right now, we're going to give them a chance for the second section.
Now, you basically have 2 codexes that come from the vowel pointing era, and that's the Masoretic text, which is the received text of Judaism and almost everybody. And then there's a second text called the Aleppo Codex. The Aleppo Codex coming from Aleppo, Lebanon, where the problems are going on today. That's where the codex was written, and it's a good text. Not that it's a bad text, but what happened was a few people that actually got their hands on the text. They started looking at this text, and they found that it is very similar to the Masoretic text in many ways, and that the same vowel pointing that the rabbis did, that we know they admit that incorrectly vowel pointed to Adonai, but they're out of the 6,823 times that the Tetragrammaton or the Yod He Vav He is there, it's vowel pointed to Yehovah 50 times out of that. So this crazy theory that came up that really doesn't have any premise of or basis of evidence for it, is that somehow the scribe accidentally 50 times put the right name, which should be Yehovah. And I'll tell you why it makes no sense. Because over here in Israel, we've had the blessing that we know scribes. We bring our groups sometimes to scribes that teach you how they work and whatnot. Number one, you can't have a mistake in an official document that's a Torah document. What happens if there is a mistake? Usually what they'll do is if they can't cut the mistake out, like something like the name, they would not even cut it out. They wouldn't scrape it off. They would have to cut it out. They would literally have to cut it out and replace it. So if this is an official document, which the Aleppo Codex is, there's no way there's 50 mistakes to anything in there. You know, it just wouldn't be that way. So this mindset that somehow this scribe 50 times accidentally put the right pronunciation of Yehovah in there is absolutely preposterous, and there's just no premise of truth to it.
Now, I call my response here a peek inside the books. When I first heard Elder Don talk about there's the Masoretic text and there's another text that's similar, I thought at that point, I felt like maybe he's never actually seen inside the books, which I'm actually going to give you a chance to look inside the books that he's referring to. I want to make a confession. I am one of the few people who actually got their hands on the text. Now, I have to tell you something. I want to show you the text that that he's referring to and what I got my hands on. To the left, you see the most important Hebrew manuscript. This is a copy of the most important Hebrew manuscript in existence, the Aleppo Codex. And to the right is the Leningrad Codex, which is the oldest, most complete Hebrew manuscript that we have, a Masoretic text that is complete. Now, for me, I have to give a little bit of history, an important history about these two Masoretic texts. The one to the right gives us the full Tanakh from Genesis all the way in through Chronicles. The English, it would say from Genesis through Malachi. In the Hebrew Bible, you'd be talking about Bereshit through Chronicles. So, but that is the full Tanakh. The Aleppo Codex is not complete. There are some parts that are missing. However, it is the creme de la creme, as they say, is the haketer, the crown. It is the best. It is the most amazing. It is the most important. This text, the Aleppo Codex, I cannot even believe that I had an opportunity to be able to see it with my own two eyes in a copy, which I was given by my friend, the late Reggie White, who actually brought this gift to me, the Aleppo Codex, based on some manuscripts that were actually unbound. He actually got 4 of them. He kept one for himself. He gave one to Nehemiah Gordon, another one of the few people who got their hands on the text. Gave another one to our friend Kadri Ismail, and then he presented this to me. Now, I've got a wonderful story about this, which I'll go into depth on when we make our presentation on the Return to the Book conference. That's not what I'm going to talk about now, but these 2 manuscripts I've actually got a chance to look into. I did something interesting. I placed them on top of a piano because to me, they are music to my ears. To see it with my own 2 eyes and to be able to pronounce what the Masoretes have done by putting the vowel markers based on the tradition of how a word is pronounced, to be able to actually read it for myself has been an absolute, I can't even tell you, music to my ears. I think it'll be music to your ears also. Why I stopped the video a year and a half ago is I heard Elder Don say the Aleppo Codex is similar to the Masoretic text. That's an alternative fact. No, it's not similar. It is the crown of all Masoretic texts. It is it's like I say, the creme de la creme. They said it was a crazy theory, this idea that there were 50 places where the name is placed. I take a little bit of offense to that because it's actually based on looking into the received text, as he said, the text of Judaism and everyone else, the Masoretic manuscripts. And that's really the basis of the present excitement around the name is that this is not based on opinion. This is not based on Greek. This is not based on early Christian thought. This is based on actual manuscripts that not only can a few people see, but now you can see. I got to stop. Nehemiah Gordon and his team are doing something that is it's game changing, and they've allowed me to peek at some of the stuff that they've found they haven't even talked about. It really is a game changer. So my invitation to them and to others is, let's find a way to get some common ground regarding the same information. The scribes, here's what the scribes did. Let me slow down a little bit because I do get a little excited about this. The scribes inadvertently wrote the name Yud He Vav He and placed in the vowels that they understood that the name and how the name would be pronounced. Now, this happened. We see it in now, I think they say there's over 1,000 manuscripts where we find this. This is not a manuscript mistake. It's an error on part of it's not an error, but rather it's a scribal slip. Like kind of what I just said. I just did a slip. I slipped up. They're going like this and they're saying, now remember, only put in 2 vowels, but in their mind, they know it's Yehovah. And so they put Yeh and Va, it can't be pronounced. And every once in a while, who knows why, maybe they got caught up like I did. Maybe they went too fast and they put in the full vowels. Now, when they did that, they had a major problem. What are we going to do about it? Now, here's what's so exciting is that people say, well, if they do that, that's a mistake, and the manuscript has to be thrown. Hey, this team, Nehemiah Gordon's team, they have uncovered some things that, like I say, are going to blow the alternative facts out of the water. There are mistakes that have been corrected in both the Aleppo and Leningrad manuscripts. You can actually see them today. So this idea that somehow that if the scribe had inadvertently put in the vowels of Yehovah, that somehow the whole manuscript part had to be cut out, that is not the case based on evidence. That theory is what I call an alternative fact. Here are the facts regarding what the scribes did in both the Aleppo Codex and the Leningrad. I consider them the 2 most important Hebrew manuscripts. There are other manuscripts that now have been discovered and that can certainly go alongside, and even historically. The reason I say, for me, the 2 most important manuscripts, one, the Leningrad manuscript is the basis of the Bible that I had in seminary that I brought to Israel and asked my friend Nehemiah Gordon. I said, hey, listen, do you know anything about the name Yud He Vav He? And he said, hey, do you have a piece of paper and pencil? And I showed him my Bible. He says, hey, that Bible you're holding is based on the Leningrad Codex. So for me, I've had this in my possession for 10 years before I ever really addressed it. And then, of course, the Aleppo Codex, having been given that gift, a limited edition of the most important Hebrew manuscript that we have in existence. Amazing. So here are the facts based on looking in those manuscripts. The Aleppo Codex has 7 places where the name has the full vowels Yehovah, where you see the consonants Yud He Vav He and the vowel markers O Shiva, Cholim, and Kamatz. Now, there is no question that the scribe that placed in these vowels knew how to pronounce the name. There's no question that historically the scribes knew how to pronounce the name. The issue becomes is that why is it that they don't always place the vowels and only sometimes? Again, the only thing that we can come up with at this point is that we knew that there was a ban, a prohibition from doing this, but sometimes it happened. It was like an oops, it's there now. And here's the amazing thing. Because it's there, it is not a mistake. This is the correct way to say it. So we're going to let it lie. We're going to let it live right there. We're going to let it be music to our ears. Here is an example of looking into the actual manuscript. You know, I did something really funny. It was funny for me, but it was purposeful while I'm here on the Far East Initiative. There's been so much excitement regarding these 1,000 manuscripts that Nehemiah Gordon and his team have discovered. So I called and I said, hey, Nehemiah, can you do me a favor? I'm now away from my library. I'm away from the manuscripts. I'm way over here, 7,000 miles away. Number one, do you have anything you could send me that has an example where you have the 4 consonants and the 2 vowels? He said, yes. Do you have anything where you've got Adonai with the full vowels within? Yeah, yes. Do you have anything where you've got the name Yud He Vav He with the full vowels? He said, yes. I said, hey, do you got anything, any manuscript where you've got the 4 consonants and the vowels of Yahweh? And there was silence. He says, of all the thousands of manuscripts, we can't find it. It doesn't exist. We'll get a little to that later. But here's what's really cool about what we're looking at here. This is the Aleppo Codex, Ezekiel chapter 28, 20 through 22. Now, let's be like Moses. Let's slow down and take a look. You, my friend, right now, you are going to get a chance to read from the most important Hebrew manuscript in existence. Here you see 4 consonants, Yud, He, Vav, He, and you see the normal practice of only putting in 2 vowels, a Sheva and a Kamatz. When I come across this 4-letter word, I can't speak it if I were to read it the way I see it. That's the scribe saying, no, don't do it. But then later, the scribe got caught up. Here it says Adonai, Aleph, Dalet, Nun, Yud, and there is a Chataf Patach, a Holim. You can't barely see it in, here, but it's there, and a Kamatz. Then the next word he's supposed to do is he's supposed to put Yud with a Shavah and an Holim and probably like a Hirik, so it's like the vowels of Elohim. And I'm going a little far, but I want you to see this. Instead, he gets caught up and he puts the vowels Yehovah. Now, I'm sure he looked back and thought, let her lie. This is from the Aleppo Codex, my friend. You, right now, are reading from the Aleppo Codex. The Leningrad Codex. Now, I got to be honest. For me, it's my favorite manuscript just because it's my first manuscript. It's my first love. It's what just opened my eyes in the land of Israel. I sat up all night looking into my scientific version, the Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartensia, my Hebrew Bible that I had from seminary, which is based on the Leningrad. And I found the first time, still remember, it was 3:00 in the morning. Nehemiah said, well, you've got your Bible. Look in your Bible. I asked him a question. I said, hey, Nehemiah, can you show me in my Bible where it places the 4 consonants and the 3 vowels? And at that point, he's like, I don't know exactly where it is, but it's there. He couldn't have it from memory. He certainly had seen it. I went back to my apartment. I stayed up till 3 in the morning. And the first time I came across it, I literally shouted at 3 in the morning. I was so excited. It was like it jumped off the page and smacked me in the face. I love to say that. Can I show you what I saw in my Hebrew Bible that's based on the Leningrad manuscript? I saw this. Vayomer Yehovah Elohim. Vayomer Yehovah Elohim. And Yehovah God Elohim said. This is Genesis chapter 3, verse 14. You can look in, if you have a Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartensia or the Leningrad manuscript, you can actually look in and see it for yourself. But right now, that's exactly what you'd see, a little blown up there. So this is why I am going to challenge my brothers, brother Don and brother Paul and all the other brothers that I've tried to engage and have conversation with to look into the actual Hebrew sources rather than parroting opinions. I have to tell you something. There's a lot of parroting of opinions that's taking place regarding this topic, and that's just not good enough. If we're going to go ahead and get into this conversation regarding his name, let's treat it with excellence. Let's do our best. Let's be able to say we saw it for ourselves. Now, let's go back to the video, which I call the alternative facts.
And there's no other documents that support Yehovah. Is that
No,
correct? It's
absolutely
just the
not.
Aleppo Codex. It's just those 50 instances out of 7,000.
Absolutely, you're right. If you look into all the ancient text, all the ancient documents, everything written by Judaism, like I said, we'll go over a few of these here in a minute. Everything.
Well, this is a good
says
one,
the name
folks.
is Yahweh.
I saw this and I thought to myself, I want to give him grace because this was actually recorded in 2016, where Brother Paul says to Brother Don, now there's just this one manuscript, right? And this one, and they mix the facts. That's why I call them alternative facts sometimes. But he says, no, there's no other place where we find this. Let me tell you something. There's no competition. It ain't even close. So what I want to do is I want to give a response to what they said. First of all, groundbreaking research has uncovered more than 1,000 biblical Hebrew manuscripts with the full name written as Yehovah. This is with the eyes of the team. Nehemiah Gordon and his team have done a phenomenal job. And why can they do this now? Because just within the last year, Hebrew manuscripts are being uploaded digitally from different libraries where they have collections of thousands and thousands and thousands of manuscripts, and they found a way to be able to quickly get access to those manuscripts and to see them and check for themselves. And I'm telling you, they're talking about more than 1,000 biblical Hebrew manuscripts. How many actual times within those 1,000 manuscripts? Thousands of times where the scribe said Yehovah. And again, the point is the scribe knew how the name was pronounced. Just like when they say Vayomer, he knows it's Vayomer. And of course, these are the vowels that they put in there. David, of course, these are the vowels they put in there. They know it's Yehovah. They just have the band that says, but you're not supposed to pronounce it. Sometimes, as he's writing in his mind, he knows it. And sometimes he puts that little cholim there. I call it the cholim from heaven. That allows you and me to pronounce it. There are, let me say this to my brothers and sisters, there are no biblical Hebrew manuscripts or other ancient Hebrew sources that have been discovered that witness to the name Yahweh. That's just facts. That's just the facts. I came across something when I was doing a little research. Yahweh's Restoration Ministry happens to be one of those ministries that's real strong. They want to debate and they want to debase and they don't want to have a real dialogue. They even say on their website, Yahweh is confirmed within Greek documents from church fathers and Gnostic writings. Hello? Are they serious? Those are the sources. Greek documents, Gnostic writings versus the received text of Hebrew manuscripts, it ain't even close. There's no competition. Now, I'm not going to go into the depth of what that really means that they're saying. I think they might want to remove that from their site, because some of you might actually check what those documents are and what those Gnostic writings are. And
It's where everything, and personally, I've been blessed being here, that I've had the opportunity to know some very high rabbis and priests.
And how long have you been here in Israel?
20 years.
20 years. So that's a long time.
Very long time.
Good experience.
And even the Samaritan priests, who are Levites, they've done DNA, they're Levites. They're the only priests that have never left the land of Israel. So they're not like the other ones that are here that came back later. And we asked the priest clearly, is the name Yahweh? And he said, yes, it is.
so, response number 4. Here comes the big kahuna. I mean, this is where they're going to say, look, we've got witness. Who are the ones who say Yahweh? So he tells us, the Samaritan priests, again, alternative facts, talking about the Samaritans are the original Levites with DNA and they're still in the land. I'm not even going to go down that road. I will, however, tell you that the Samaritan priests in Israel say Shema, which means the name in Aramaic, just like many Jews say Hashem, which means the name in Hebrew. Now, is this based on me hearing it from someone else? No, I actually went and spent some time on Mount Gerizim with the number 2 high priest, the number 2 priest, rather, of the Samaritan community. And they're very open about what they think and their reasoning, and they're very strong about their history and that sort of thing. And again, this is based on, taking the time and the effort to go and to spend that time with them to ask that question. I will say this, and this is where I have to be really careful not to go much further than just responding. The Samaritans are the source of the pronunciation Yahweh. However, the foundation of this pronunciation is not something to boast about. If you really go into the depth of where that came from, again, that's one of those things they really might want to look at the sources and see it. And I think that might cause there to be let's say a second look regarding this. That's my hope, is that we can at least begin to look together at some of this and see if we can't find some common ground. So back to the alternative facts.
In fact, it reminds me, you've been our tour guide here in Israel, and our archaeologist we had with us, I won't mention his name out of respect, but his wife is a Yemenite Jew, and I had the opportunity while on Mount Carmel to ask him, is the way Don pronounces the name, is that correct? And he says, yes. And he went on to say this, which I found really fascinating. He said, based on my Yemenite wife, which we know Yemenite is the oldest form of Hebrew, he says, based on my Yemenite wife and how she would pronounce the name, is exact.
Yes.
And I was just amazed. Number one, that he confirmed that, being a Jew, because most Jews won't. And two, that we had the opportunity not to hear just from any Jew, but from a 30-year archaeologist married to a Yemenite wife, a woman. I mean, it's just incredible, in my mind, validation of the name Yahweh. So, you know, we know the name is Yahweh. And, share with us some of the other references, because I think your explanation on the Aleppo Codex is good.
Yes.
It's very, very important for people to realize that out of almost 7,000 times, only 50 times, and I think your point too with the Jews would not allow a mistake to go by. They were very meticulous with these manuscripts, and it's unthinkable that they would make 50 mistakes.
A scribe, an official scribe.
And just let it go.
Exactly.
I cannot believe that. So the theory, as you said, is just really crazy, and really without any scholarly evidence whatsoever to support it.
Response number 5. You know, this is really interesting. People that don't say maybe understand completely all that's going on with languages will say that, you know, they'll hear something that's Arabic and somehow say that Arabic is the oldest. And I call this the Arabic influence. The Yemenite Jews speak a dialect of Hebrew that is not, somebody say not, the oldest form of Hebrew. The Yemenite dialect was influenced by Arabic. This is something that they can actually see for themselves. There are sources that will give them this information. But again, this is kind of where you get caught up. You know, this sounds the best. They use it this way. And this is from the Yemenite Jews. And the Yemenite Jews have an older tradition, an older way of pronouncing. Yeah, again, if you want to say it, Arabic is the oldest, you know, knock yourself out. The true scholarly evidence, and this is, again, what I want to say about their, can I say, it's a debasement sometimes. The true scholarly evidence is found in the very manuscripts that we have in our hands. These, Elder Don and Brother Paul, are the authoritative Hebrew sources. Now, if you want to talk about opinion, if you want to talk about Greek, if you want to talk about the church fathers as the source of authority, then there really is no dialogue. But if we want to use at least what even Elder Don said, you know, these are the authoritative sources of both the Jewish community and everyone else, the Masoretic text, then let that be the basis. Let's get back to the alternative facts video.
But anyway, share with us some evidence for Yahweh's name.
Yeah, let me read a few of these, because there could be thousands upon thousands of people that will see this, that it isn't just our opinion, but this is actually from Judaism from the very beginning. This is coming from Webster's Collegiate Dictionary. It says Yehovah, or Jehovah, is a false reading of the Hebrew Yahweh. That's from 1973 edition. Encyclopedia Americana. Yehovah, or Jehovah, erroneous form of the name of the Elohim of Israel. That's coming from 1972, volume 16. Encyclopedia Britannica. The Masoretics, who from the 6th to the 10th century worked to reproduce the original text of the Hebrew Bible, replaced the vowels of the name Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh with the vowel signs of Adonai, or Elohim. Thus the artificial name Yehovah came into being. That's also from the New Encyclopedia Britannica, 1993.
Now, does that say Jehovah or Yehovah in the actual reference?
Yeah, in the English, they're putting Jehovah, but Yehovah is the same.
And it is the same, and I want to make that point. Because some may say, or it doesn't say Yehovah, but J is not in Hebrew.
Yes.
They would have had Yehovah. So that's an important point. I just wanted to make sure so our viewers realize that even though you're saying Yehovah and it says Jehovah, it's the same thing.
It's the
because
same.
Again, Hebrew does not have a J sound.
Yes. And in English, if you go into the original King James Bible from 1607, 1611, when you saw the J, you'd be saying Yah.
Yes.
There
matter of fact, the original 1611 King James had no J.
Yes, it didn't even have a J.
It was an I.
But when the J came in, interesting enough, in German today, our brethren that are in Germany, when you see the word Joel, Joel, we would say, they say Yoel. In German language today, which the Ashkenazis come from, the J is still a Y. So that's why you're right. When you're saying Jehovah or Yehovah, it's
same thing.
Absolutely the same thing. This is the Jewish Encyclopedia now. Yehovah or Jehovah a mispronunciation of the Hebrew Yahweh, the name of Elohim. The pronunciation of Jehovah or Yehovah is grammatically impossible.
Now, I have to tell you, if there's a pet peeve, this is probably one of the top 2 pet peeves I have. He started out the video saying, look, we're going to give you the sources for why we know that it's Yahweh and it's not Yehovah. And I'm thinking, okay, this is great. Maybe they have 1,000 manuscripts. Maybe they have a team that's been looking into Hebrew manuscripts. And I'm thinking, drum roll, here it comes. And I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to watch the whole video. And then here were the sources. Webster's Dictionary, the Encyclopedia Americana, and even the new Encyclopedia Britannica. Can I tell you guys something? Those are not Hebrew Bible sources. But if you want to stick to dictionaries, there is a dictionary that's a pretty important one, at least in the community that I come from, in the seminary community, in many places, called the Anchor Bible Dictionary. If you want to stick to dictionaries, here's what the Anchor Bible Dictionary says. Yahweh, according to the Anchor Bible Dictionary, is a scholarly guess. And if you get into the real details of this, and I think we're going to do this if we can have this dialogue and this discussion. If we really get into it, I don't want to overwhelm those of you that have just came across this and saying, hey, give me the top 10 reasons. It really is real clear why that's a scholarly guess. There's actually grammatical a basis for what the Anchor Bible Dictionary is saying. Let's go back to the alternative facts video.
Which is another thing. And remember, in Hebrew, the word hova means ruin or destruction,
mischief.
right?
I think mischief is in it, but yeah, absolutely.
Well, and if there's another pet peeve for me, it's response number 7. I called it a weak approach based on the Strong's Concordance. Did you get that? A weak approach based on the Strong's Concordance. I cannot tell you how many times I have had people come to me and say, the Strong says, the Strong says, the Strong says. And there's nothing wrong with the Strong's Concordance. It's an amazing work. It gives you the ability to see a word and where it's used, how many times throughout the entire Bible. It is not a lexicon. So here's the one that they do. This is the one they love to beat this horse. The word Hovah, which is a feminine noun, has no grammatical connection to the name Yehovah, which is a proper noun. They each come from separate and distinct Hebrew roots. Now, I wish I could go into depth about this right here. Let me just tell you, you've got to have a little bit of Hebrew grammatical understanding. You got to have a little bit of understanding of Hebrew grammar. I'm not going to get into it, but like I say, all of these sources will be made available. We're going to be making an invitation to you and to them to again, see some of this stuff for yourself if they're willing to go through it. But I have to, one of our editors, he's a genius. I said, can you give me, what are some examples in English, of like why you can't say Yehovah comes from, or Hovah comes from Yehovah? What are some English examples? He said, well, think about the UCLA Bruins, he said. The UCLA Bruins, someone could say, you shouldn't be the Bruins because you have the word ruin. Classic. The other one he said was, it's not lawful. If you use the word lawful in English and you say, well, it's because of the word awful is in the word lawful, it can't be... He's a genius, I'm telling you. But it's an example of, and again, we'd have to go into some grammatical issues regarding Hebrew. And I wish this is what my brothers were doing, but that's clearly not what they're doing. When you talk about mischief and destruction, the name of the Father, that's disrespectful. That's part of the reason why I'm responding. So again, this common misconception is the result of using Strong's Concordance to make a lexical determination about the definition of the name Yehovah. It is a weak approach. Hey, we're getting close to the end here. Let's go back to the alternative facts video.
The other thing, just real quickly, and maybe because time, the V or the Vav, I don't think we've mentioned that just yet, but that was added. That was Ashkenazi influence.
Yes.
The Sephardic Jews, the Yemenite Jews, they still use the Wa, or the W, not the V. So that's another point, that Yahweh or Yehovah, the Vav or the V is not correct based on Hebrew grammar.
And actually, the Ashkenazis also use the Wa. They know from biblical Hebrew, they know it's Wa. Nobody doubts that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have a biblical program.
Yeah, even Ashkenazis, they'll say that.
Yeah.
So even though in modern Hebrew, they use the Vav, everybody, a matter of fact, I don't think I've ever met someone here in Israel that's a scholar that ever debated that.
Yeah.
Response number 8, real short. It's an accident on accent. I don't know how many times I've heard this. And again, this information is available. It's something that we're going to have to be willing to get into. You're going to have to be willing to if you want to go through this. But again, my point is that, these guys made this drive-by teaching and all these people watched it. And they knew lots and lots of people were going to watch it. I don't know how many people will see this, but at least for me, those of you like me that like to see things for yourself and understand it based on the sources, I just think that, let's take a look. The V sound in Yehovah exists in both biblical and non-biblical sources and has been retained in many other Jewish communities beyond the Ashkenazi European community. Again, this is information that you can actually see for yourselves, and it's really easy to make these statements, these responses without having any information. But this is something that actually we can back up. And again, the invitation will come.
Well, I'd like to thank you for sharing everything you did with us, because it really is important for people to realize that our Father in heaven has it. Matter of fact, I wanted to read something just real quick here. This is from Acts. As a matter of fact, it's a quote from Joel 2, but I'm going to read from Acts 2, verse 21. This is Peter speaking. He says, "And it shall come to pass that whoever shall call on the name of Yahweh shall be saved."
Yes.
This shows, and this is one of many, many, I mean, we could go all day long looking at the importance of Yahweh's name. This is just one of many passages showing the importance. And this is why it's important to get it right, though.
Yes.
And this Yehovah, as you said, is an impossibility within the Hebrew.
Yes.
Even within the original English. And what many people don't realize is that J was the last letter to be added to the English alphabet. So, again, it's just not right. And we would encourage anybody debating this name to really look into it, because it's an important, maybe the most important. I don't know what you think, but I think the name of our Father in heaven is maybe the most important aspect of our worship.
Absolutely.
Now, this one, I say save your breath, because sometimes people say, well, Yahweh allows me to feel the breath that, okay, I don't want to make fun of that. But again, it's not something that we see in the Hebrew sources. We cannot find this form, Yahweh, in the Hebrew sources. So I think this is really interesting, though, because at the end there he says, listen, the word Yahweh, and he's talking about the verse that's talking about Joel and salvation. I think this is a really good thing for us to take a look at. When the name Yehovah is combined with the verb Yoshia, that's a verb, it creates the name Yehoshua, which in English is Joshua. The meaning of this name is Yehovah saves. Now, wait a minute. We got to change. We got to change the pronunciation of Yehoshua. We got to make it Yahshua or something like that. But in the Hebrew sources, no scribe argues. No scribe says you can't speak it. No rabbi would say. No scholar would say that Joshua's original name. They would not argue. They'd say, yeah, that's his original name, and it would be pronounced Yehoshua. The shortened form of his name is Yeshua, not Yahshua. Now, this Yahshua is an attempt to take Yahweh and force it into the name that they know is connected somehow to salvation. So what they do is they do these gymnastics. You don't have to do the gymnastics. Just open up the Hebrew Bible and you see Nehemiah chapter 8, verse 17. Yeshua, son of Nun. This is the shortened form of Yehoshua, son of Nun, who was the first man, by the way. He was the first man that ever was given the combination of the name Yehovah. Oh boy. He used to be called Hosea. Moses looked at him and said, you know what? There ain't no way he's going to be able to do it. He's taking people into the new land. He's going to need help from Yehovah. So now your name is no longer Hosea. It is Yehoshua. You got to get excited about that. And in the shortened form of his name, it would be Yeshua. Yeah. Okay? I know I'm getting a little excited. I'm way over here. I'm upside down in the earth. Blood's rushing to my head. Bear with me. We're almost done. Back to the alternative facts video.
There's 68 references in the Tanakh where the shortened form Yah is used. So we know it's Yah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not Yeh, it's Yah.
Yeah. Or again, I'd like to thank you. And again, it's been a pleasure being with you in the Holy Land. And just for our viewers, we're right near the old city of Jerusalem, in a park, beautiful park. Very important site, but I'll let you talk about that later. But I'd like to thank you for watching this short program. I pray that it's been a blessing to you. And again, we would encourage you to look into Yehovah if you believe this and realize that this is not a name we find within Hebrew or Greek, certainly not within English. It's an impossibility, as Elder Don stated, and we would just encourage you to look into it because, again, our Father's name is very, very important. It's vital to our worship, and this is something we can't get wrong. So I pray that it's been a blessing to you, and thank you for watching, and may Yahweh bless you. Bye-bye.
Now, they called this whole thing crazy, and so I want to make a crazy challenge. Now, before I make the crazy challenge, I got to respond to something that Brother Don said. He actually said there were actually 49 instances in the Tanakh where the term, the poetic form, Yah, appears as a separate poetic form of the name. There is no argument about that. That's actually a beautiful thing. Moses does it, I think it is. Help me, somebody. Oh, I think it's Deuteronomy, yeah, where he's talking about the sea and what the creator of the universe did. He's doing a poem about what Yehovah did. I'm sorry, Exodus chapter 15, I believe it is. Bear with me, I don't have notes here. It's off the top of my head. But again, what he did is he took the name Yehovah and he created this beautiful form of Yah, which is a poetic form of Yehovah. When the name is connected to the end of a word, it is Yah. When it is connected to the beginning of a word, it is Yeho. There are biblical examples of both. You can find it over and over and over. In First Temple times, it would be Yeshayahu, which is Isaiah, and then in Second Temple times, it would be Isaiah in English, Yeshayah, that's Yah at the end. But then you go to another name like Jonathan, Yehonatan, Yeho at the beginning, Yah at the end. Example after example after example. Again, I'm getting a little long here, but again, this is something that you can see for yourself. Now, let me get personal. When I heard these men say that the name Yehovah, found in thousands of times in Hebrew manuscripts, is a crazy theory and that it is preposterous and that there is no premise of truth, I was inspired, challenged to respond. And the truth of the matter is I was offended. And what offended me wasn't so much personal to me. It was that they were proclaiming this to the public without looking at the sources themselves. And so this is my response. I've responded. And again, at the level at which they brought it, I responded in that way. I'm not giving you all the details. I'm not giving you all the sources. However, I do want to invite you to something that will help you get more information. See, for me, folks, this is real important. I'm a Gentile. I am not someone who realizes anything. I don't have any, I shook the family tree and no Jews fell out, as they say. I don't have any Jewish blood that I know of. However, I am a foreigner who has joined. I've Levited myself, the original Levites. I've Levited myself to, in English, it says the Lord, and to minister to him and to love the name. I love his name. Now, if I read that verse in the English Bible, I'm stuck because I'm dealing with a title. But if I read that verse in the Hebrew Bible, something happens. Now, what they're wanting me to do is they're wanting me to take a form, and they're saying this form, Yahweh, is the name that I am to love. The problem is I can't find it. What I can find in the Hebrew manuscripts, and now thousands of Hebrew manuscripts, we find that beautiful musical name, Yehovah. So for me, when I read the English Bible like this, I do something. I actually remove the Lord. I don't say the Lord much when I'm reading. And for me, I pick up my Hebrew Bible. And then when I'm reading my Hebrew Bible, or when I look into the manuscripts, man, I can see it for myself, and I just can't help it. I have to proclaim his name. And so I would like to do something. I want to invite those in the know. That's like my two brothers who did their video, and those who know little or nothing, like some of you, and maybe you know a lot. I want to invite you to come with me. Look, it says I'm at a low battery, folks. I'm running out. Time is running out. It says low battery. From around the world for an encounter regarding the most profound, powerful, and praiseworthy name in existence. I want to make this invitation to you. And so in the description, hopefully by the time you see this, there's going to be a link to an opportunity to do something I have been working on for a while. I want to thank the Nehemiah and his team for what they've done. But 7 years ago for me, I've been working on this. And again, when they kind of were talking about the crazy theory, I took that as personal because when I found those 50 times, I remember calling Nehemiah and saying, Nehemiah, 50 times. Now, since then, there's over 50. In other words, more and more information is coming out. We're learning more and more. Even some things regarding the traditional understanding of Adonai and all that, it's all coming. But folks, I'm here upside down in the earth. I got a low battery. I'm struggling over here doing the best I can. Hopefully you'll take this information. I'd like to show you the invitation. It's called The Name Explained, free interactive live webinar. I found the technology to do live webinars. I've invited Nehemiah and his team. I'm inviting Brother Don and his people. I've invited some other people that are maybe want to debate the issue, and I have no problem with that. But let's get together and find some common ground. So this is my invitation to you. The Name Explained, I think we're going to have it probably 3 parts to it. Part 1 is going to be on the genesis of the name. We are so excited about this. I'm actually on my way back to the United States a little bit, but I couldn't wait. I couldn't hold it. Had to respond and take no offense, brothers, but I've responded according to the way that you've said it. And again, hopefully this is an invitation to them and to my brothers and sisters around the world to run into that name that is powerful. It's profound. It's poetic. It's amazing. And so in his name, I want to thank you for this opportunity, for listening. And until we meet again, may he, Yehovah, bless you.